30 minutes in front of these drivers and plenty of opportunities.
But yes, a bit of point of contention, but it doesn't matter now, Ron. We're going green.
Drivers are on their way, and it's a rather convincing start from Joyner. He's going to be leading them complicated. Heading through this bend, it tightens up though before they head off into turn number 8. This is going to be very close.
What is that?
Based off the fact you sound like you sat on a cold toilet seat there, Adam, but that was insane. And Kramer was mega sideways coming out of turn number 8.
That one got me. That one got me.
Look at this conga line. Dun 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 dun. Who was it that came up for the? Oh, that was Tolo coming in.
6 years ago, this was my simulator. Now, I'm a Radical US champion and IMSA driver. My technique in the simulator is what brought me here. Now, I created the Almeida Racing Academy, a place where members can participate in weekly broadcasted championship races, practice sessions, coaching workshops, and much more. We already have 11,000 students in the academy, and we're growing faster than ever. Our membership gives you everything you need every week to improve consistently and become a competitive driver. So join now as a member, and I will see you on track.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 11 of this season, coming to you today from Thruxton. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. And now, Charles, as we get well and truly into crunch time for this season, which has 2 races left to go, we head to an old school racetrack, Thruxton. While the newer tracks added here into the sim, it's a fast track. There are really no breaks in the action here. And in these cars, even though they aren't the draft heaviest in the world, I still think there's going to be a slipstream race.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Ron. This definitely has the makings of one of those draft fests that we kind of enjoy watching from time to time. It makes these long trains, keeps the field fairly tightly packed. Only, as you said, a couple of spots where you're going to be some hard braking points, but otherwise it's going to be pretty much wide open for these Formula Fords.
Wide open and flat out racing all throughout this race that we have coming up. And to all of you tuning into this broadcast, welcome aboard for the second to last round of this championship. It's been an exciting season up to this point. Had a pretty good race last time out at Alton Park. I was out for last week's broadcast, but Alton never disappoints. Another fantastic old school UK racetrack, and we have seen a lot of British racetracks over the past couple of seasons, it must be said, here in the wide world of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, but I don't believe we'll have that many coming into next season. More on that a little bit later on in this broadcast. But currently in qualifying, where Ian Joyner is on the provisional pole at the present moment, a 1:18.576, pretty good lap time from him. Adam Tompkins set to join him on the front row. Presently, Antonio Reese, your top running Masters racer in P6, with Dan Woodsack, your top running Spec 2 racer. Both the class is taken care of with a lot of time left to go in qualifying. I think we should probably take a look at the championship point standings coming into this second to last race of this very exciting season 2 here in 2025. And Sean Doyle up at the top of Spec 1. Looks like he's going to get it done here this season unless he has a late season collapse. Don't think I see him out there at the present moment, albeit my eyes may be deceiving me, which they very much so often do. But he's at the top, 711 points scored already. Daniel Tufts has had a very good season. Bit under the radar is a driver of the number 34 car. Always quick, though, in these FS. He's currently slotted in second. Felix Samoas is a little bit farther back in third. He was involved in the championship battle a little bit earlier on in the season. That bit of a late season collapse, it must be said, though, as the driver of the number 31. We have Kevin Adrian slotted in fourth, and Michael McConnell rounding out your top 5 in the Spec 1 category. Here's how it looks like in Spec 2, where Dan Woodsack is looking very good to get the championship this season. He's already won 6 races, so set to win at the very least half of them here for season 2 of 2025. Very similar form to the champion here in this series in this class 1 year ago, whose name I just blanked on. So very similar to that driver whose name I'm probably going to remember here in a couple of moments on. But Dan Wisak, very quick. Paul Jackson slotted in P2 at 514 points. Those two really just above the rest of the field. Dustin Beaton slotted in third. Fernando Afonso, who has one win up to this point in the season in Spec 2, slotted in fourth, with Fabian Singer rounding out our top 5. So that's how it looks over there. And finally in Masters, it's looking very good for Antonio Reese. He scored a lion's share of the victories up to this point, has the biggest points gap out of anybody in this series, and looking good for Batonio to return to the cave and bring home a trophy to it at the end of it as well. Jeff Lupker slotted in P2, Alan DeGassis, Stevie Ray Series Admin, and Jim Brewster round out to top 5 in the Masters points. So Charles, I don't think we're going to see a bare knuckle fist fight for the championship, but I think we're going to have some racing here, as let's do an onboard lap with Antonio Reese. Actually, no, Andrew Love.
Jump over to Andrew Love as we're coming down the front stretch into turn 1. As you see, pretty wide open corner there. Not much of a lift, to be fair. Same with turn 2 here. Just looks like you're just kind of getting lined up as you're ready for this first chicane. This is the first hard braking point, and it's not that difficult, to be fair. Pretty open chicane as chicanes go. Works our way around through turn 5. As we get onto the back stretch here, and you can just kind of see this is just a really open, flat track. You get a few S's in through here. You're going to get a nice little double left there. You got to carry that speed through over around in here to this probably turn 8 or 9, and just slowly descending radius there. It just tied up a little bit, but managed to hold on. Great job there, Andrew, as he works his way down. And we're coming up to the I guess another little straightaway, and we're going to get a nice little kink there, and you just see him just keep controlling that, rolling that speed through. Not really much of a lift anywhere except for that first chicane until we get down here to the final chicane, and you're going to see a little heavier braking zone here. It's really got to slow this car down, get it lined up, get it through the chicane, a little quick flick back and forth. And that's going to complete the lap. You didn't notice that the pit entry there is just past the chicane. It's going to be a really tricky prospect as those cars are still moving in pretty good pace to jump into the pits there off the racing line. Not a lot off the racing line, to be fair. Into the pits with a very, very quick brake to get down to the proper pit speed. The cones are up very, very close to the edge of the track, so it's going to be that might be our biggest potential issue during the race today.
And on the subject of the Racing Line, you can catch the Racing Line podcast over on the Radio Esports YouTube channel every single Tuesday night. That right there, no question or shadow of a doubt. No, that was cheap. Adam Tompkins is your provisional pole sitter right now. He's been able to jump in front of Ian Joyner. About a tenth of a second is the gap between those two. Now, we were joking a little bit before the start of this broadcast, Charles, about how Ian Joyner Very, very good driver. Entered this season as the
Oh, yeah.
reigning champion, but hasn't really been present too much throughout the season, so not involved in that championship hunt, and he wasn't really expecting to be in the championship hunt for this season, so no real disappointment when it comes to that. Ian Joyner, though, unless we see a massive charge right towards the end of the season, which I don't think we will, because looking through the other drivers who have won twice up to this point, Felix Samoas and Rasmus Vori, don't think either of them are on the racetrack here today. So Ian Joyner will be able to leave this season no matter what with the most amount of wins out of everybody, which is just absurd.
Yeah, it's he's had a great year, even though he hasn't been here for the entire time. Obviously, he splits time between here and his real track. We'll be driving, I think, Formula V's, I think, is what he drives normally. So when he's not out racing his Formula V, he's in here racing the Formula Ford, and you could just see plenty of talent behind the wheel of that car as he's out there and sitting there in P2. So might have a little bit of a challenge from Tompkins today. So that was a nice little battle up front. Tufts and Buchanan have been strong the late part of this season. They're up there battling quite a bit as well. So I think we're in the makings for a pretty good race.
Yeah, looking very close is this field at the present moment. It's going to be a challenging one for these racers, as well as there goes a time from Joyner getting the draft off the back of Daniel Tufts right in front of him, and he jumps up to the provisional pole with less than a minute to go in this qualifying session. Joyner now at a 1:18.264. It's about a half a tenth between himself and Tompkins. Where is the driver of the number 17 car? That's a question that I've got right now. It doesn't matter what part of the racetrack he's on. I'm curious where the next car is to him. Does he have some sort of draft assistance? Will he be able to usurp that time from Joyner, or will anybody else be able to mount a charge? Edward Buchanan, who's been very quick thus far this season, actually grabbed the pole in the opening race of the season at Cadwell Park, albeit started second, as it was Jörg Monty, a reigning Masters champion, who started from the overall pole in that race. That's a wild off-track excursion from Daniel Tufts, but I'm not sure if anyone will be able to mount a challenge here. Daniel Tufts obviously not going to be able to do it, as the time is out. This qualifying session going to come to a close in a couple of moments' time. Joyner looking quick as always. Antonio Reese still on track to be your pole sitter in Masters, slotted in 7th at the present moment, and Dan Witzak still holding on to his spot inside the top 10. All three of those racers don't really have too much to worry about when it comes to respective championship battles. They're here trophy hunting. I think they all have a good shot to do, as we saw some very sketchy pit entries there in the back of shots. You briefly mentioned it, Charles. That pit entry is evil here.
Yeah, it really is. That's probably one of the more difficult pit entries we've seen of the season for sure. And I think overall in iRacing, it just looks like it's a great chaos additive there for that pit entry. And Tompkins was 2 cars behind Joyner as they were coming on that lap, and I think he had a car in front he was trying to draft on, but I think it actually kind of held him up. So he came into the pits of the last lap. And it looks like Joyner's going to take pole, and Reese is going to take Masters pole in P7, Witzak Spec 2 pole in P10.
And plenty of action to look forward to here for the 11th round of this championship around this 2.36 mile 12-turn road course. It's old school in nature. You think about this track and you think of touring cars, probably because iRacing just ran a 4-hour touring car race here the other day. But these FFs, they're old school British race cars, and they're going to have some old school fun around this old school British racetrack. But it looks like that's about it from qualifying. Ian Joyner going to grab the pole position here in this race at Thruxton, as we have a bit of a lull in the action. Let's hear from a fantastic sponsor that we have here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors, that being Almeida Racing Academy.
Most racing drivers don't improve because they don't know exactly what to fix. If you relate to that, this ad is for you. Because I have an online course that solves that. It's called the Motor Race Checklist. 50 structured lessons that show you exactly how to improve your technique. You stop guessing and you start following a professional system. And if you don't improve in 28 days, you get your money back. This is how 11,000 of our student drivers make progress. Now it's your turn.
And And as I just mentioned, for the second half of this Formula Ford Weekend Warriors season, the series and these broadcasts have been made possible by the Almeida Racing Academy. We would like to thank Julio Almeida and the entirety of his crew for sponsoring this fantastic series. And we got a fantastic race to look forward to here at Thruxton, and let's get the action up and rolling by taking a look at your starting grid for this 11th round of this season. It's going to be Ian Joyner, the Brit, starting this race from the pole. Adam Tompkins set to join him on the front row. In P3, it will be Edward Buchanan, the Canadian, behind the wheel of the 5 car. Alongside him will be Daniel Tufts in 4th. Jay Ray will start this race in 5th. Alongside him will be Andrew Herds. We have Antonio restarting this race from the Masters pole position in 7th. Alongside him on that 4th row will be Juan Garcia. Kevin Adrian in the number 10 car will start this race in 9th, with Dan Witzak, the Canadian, running at your top 10.
Yep, Jim Brewster, Masters driver, is going to start in 11th. Andrew Love starts in 12th. Stevie Ray starts in 13th. Philip Fernandez in 14th. Josh Wilkie will start in 15th. Xander Verbruge, haven't said that name in a while, starts in 16th. Paul Jackson in 17th. Jeff Wubker 18th. Peter Maddox in 19th. And Simon Ball rounds out your 20-car field.
And some of those drivers on the back row did not set a time in this qualifying session that we just had. I will wait further word to see as to whether or not they will be joining this racetrack here. For this race, which is set to be some fun here at Thruxton, got a pretty good view of this. And Charles, we were talking about before the start of this broadcast, the fact that you don't really have a whole lot of experience here at Thruxton. As I said in my broadcast open, one of the newer tracks added here into the sim, I think it was added at the start of Season 1 for 2025 back in December, doesn't get too much use, but I think this track is really, really enjoyable. It's fast, it's flowing, it's really rewarding if you get it right. And even in these cars that, as I said right towards the start of the show as well, they may not be the most draft heavy in the world, but around a track like this where you're spending so much of the lap flat out, we will see that game of drafting leapfrog play out here in this 40-minute long race.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the draft, once again, not enough that you're going to see like we would see in the spec racer, where it's just going to let you overtake a car down a straightaway and play that game of leapfrog. But I think this is going to keep the cars pretty tightly packed because there's enough draft that just keep everybody chained together. And, yeah, it's going to make for some interesting racing. It may be a pit stop strategy game. It might be where you can jump out there and get an undercut, and that works to your advantage. Or it may be that you just have to hang out there and delay as long as you can and work the overcut. So it's going to be strategy is usually how this plays out for these races. Is strategy is going to dictate some of the finishing positions. It seems like it always does. So we'll see what happens today.
Certainly going to be keeping our eyes open for all opportunities for these drivers to make up some moves either at their on the racetrack or through pit strategy, which is always a big factor in these Weekend Warriors races. 40 minutes long, pit stops are necessary. It's not just a matter of running out of fuel or burning up your tires. That is a matter of rule. You have to come into the pits during this race. And these drivers, as much as it may not be close championship battles at the front of the field in all three of the classes, these drivers are still going to look to have a good end to the season and keep some momentum rolling as we look ahead into Season 3 of 2025 here on the iRacing platform. And quickly, before we grab the green, just want to touch base ever so quickly on what things may look like, at least here on the Formula Ford side of things, for the Season 3 schedule. I saw a sneak peek of the official series schedule, which is what we follow here in the Weekend Warriors world. Tracks like Alton Park, the Red Bull Ring, Summit Point, Watkins Glen, Road Atlanta, Laguna Seca, Long Beach, VIR, Bathurst, Sonoma, Oshersleben, and Donington Park. That, I believe, will be the official schedule for the Formula 1600 series on the official side of things, which, as I just said, is the baseline that we have for the schedules here in the Weekend Warriors. So plenty to look forward to in Season 3, but a lot to look forward to here in the second to last race of Season 2. That pace car has made the turn to come down pit lane. The green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way. And it's Ian Joyner getting off to a pretty good start, but right behind him, Adam Thompson is maybe going to try and make something work on the exit of turn number 1 as they head their way down through the tight twisties off into the Campbell Cobb and Seagrave section here. It's going to be Joyner in front of Tompkins. Daniel Tufts looking to make something work as well from third as these drivers go side by side off through 2 and 3.
Yeah, good start by everybody so far. They only haven't seen anybody just kind of drop back or get messed up. Josh Wilkie up 2 positions, Juan Garcia up 2 positions very early in the start of this race.
Yeah, drivers are already trying to make hay while the sun is shining, but at the front of the field, it's going to be a dogfight between these three at the very north end of this race. It's Joyner, Tompkins, Tufts, and Buchanan. All very close quarter stuff between those racers, as Daniel Tufts maybe going to try and make up another spot. He's already jumped in front of Buchanan. Now he wants to get it moved on Tompkins. They are nose to tail. This peloton game will be the matter of circumstance heading through turn number 8. Those drivers, as much as they can risk and go side by side with that killer curve on the inside, you really don't want to risk it. But here we go. The game of leapfrog is very much on as Tompkins in the 17 goes for the dive down into the club chicane, and that'll be him jumping into the race lead. A big slide farther in the back. That right there, I believe, is a 13, and more drivers coming to blows. That right there, I believe, was Sander from Bruges potentially. He's had some drama in this race. Andrew Love got a piece of that action as well. Big drama right at the end of that first lap.
Yeah, we're going to have to catch some replays there. We had a couple incidents going into that final chicane, and we'll have to review those as we're back on board here with Adam Tompkins for the time being. Is make that pass for the lead over Ian Joyner. Tufts in third, Buchanan in fourth. And as you said earlier, yeah, I believe that was J. Ray maybe, as well as Andrew Love in that second little incident we saw. Could not really get a good eye on who the first one was, but if we look down the list, kind of looked like J. Ray's dropped down 10 positions. Antonio Reese is down a spot. Dan Witzak's up to P7. He's up 3 spots. And Josh Wilkie's making hay, as you said, up 6 positions into P9.
Hey, making hay while the sun is shining. I like how I use that phrase so often, despite the fact that I come from the city of Philadelphia, and the only sort of farms that I've seen are the ones that you see on the television. We got some side-by-side racing going on at the front of the field, though. Tompkins trying to defend from Joyner. We could see that game of leapfrog play, and you can see those drivers leaping over the curves as they head their way through that final chicane. That's Kevin Adrian with a slide down through the braking zone. I was just going to mention that one of the biggest challenges through that section of the racetrack, not only having to worry about the track limits, but having to slow down through that section at basically terminal velocity in these race cars, which are oh so tough to get wraggled away. As we take a look at this moment for Jay Ray in the number 13, this is heading down into that club chicane and contact being. So he had some assistance in that moment. Was that Kevin Adrian that he made side-by-side contact with?
That is the 13. Yeah, I think it was, and it was the, we'll get back on here, it's Andrew Love on the outside, I believe. That was 122 car on the outside of that as he's watching and just takes that very wide. I think he just basically was on the outside and could not get it slowed down in time, as we got Xander Verbruge there on the inside. I think that's the 233 car. Yeah, I think he just played a little follow the leader there. I think he just kind of got a little target fixation. Andrew went off and Xander followed him.
Yeah, I was going to mention, talking about the drafting game and qualifying, how important it is to avoid target fixation, as Juan Garcia has had his own falling anvil. Let's see it in the number 32. This is heading off through Goodwood of turn number 6, loses it on exit and takes a wild trip off into the grass. The landscaping crews here at Thruxton are not going to be pleased with the Canadian behind the wheel, the number 32 car. Clipped the curves, which you may not think of them as being a real detriment around this racetrack, but in these low-slung Formula Fords, you tap one of them, even look at some of them the wrong way at high speed, and you are going to go off the track lickety-split, to invoke a little bit 1950s radio terminology.
Yeah, and I think he might have caught maybe just the grass a little bit with the left side, but you can see once the car got loose, he didn't really stop until he ended up in Manchester.
Yeah, that just about sums it up. I remember one time back in my karting days, I went off the track, and I think it was about 45 miles an hour on a very misty and cold day up at Pocono Raceway. This was back in like 2017. Locked up the rears a couple of corners into the lap and went off the track. I think I probably slid about 90 feet off the track. The grass was just so soaked, just basically hit that and turned into a slip and slide. In these Formula Fords, you clip that grass, and even with the reworked physics, I mean, it's fair to say you don't need to be a scientist to know that the asphalt is going to provide more grip than the fluffy green stuff on either side of it. So these drivers got to look to try and avoid that at all costs, but they are mowing it a bit coming out of the chicane. So take a look at a moment involving Paul Jackson in the 249, the Spec 2 racer, heading his way down into turn number 1 right now. This is a tough corner in these FFs. Hit that curb on the inside, and yet again the curb strike.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just looking at those last couple of slides we saw. I'm wondering if it's maybe, because obviously we've talked about this, ad nauseum, the reworked physics and the friction models for the off-track, areas, gravel and grass and dirt. I'm wondering if it's maybe just the transitions, because obviously once you change grip levels. Or the ability for those tires to grip off of, say, a curb versus grass versus asphalt. Just wondering if that's maybe doing more damage than, say, maybe just losing traction because of maybe bouncing. All those cars do bounce, but it kind of looks like more maybe it's just a transition thing than anything else.
As we can see, Sander Verbruge getting involved in this front pack fight. He's already 1 lap down after that drama, heading off to this exact same section of the racetrack. The point I was going to raise after the Kevin Adrian moment that I just completely forgot, but I have now remembered. The braking zone heading down into that chicane is oh so tough. That is at the end of a very long flat-out blast, really outside of a little bit of a chicken's lift through turn number 6 of Goodwood and potentially a moment through turn 8. Those drivers are basically flat out for, I would say, 3/4 of a mile up into that club chicane. So you're having to get it loaded up in a Formula Ford car, which, as much as I like the way these cars drive, they can definitely kick you on your butt in the blink of an eye. So having to get slowed down, banging through the gears to go through that very clunky chicane while you're turning, that is a blend of many things, and that blend of many things is stuff that a Formula Ford car does not like to do at the same time. As we look at this side-by-side fight involving Andrew Love and Jeff Wubker, that's a battle for P13 at the present moment, and Kevin Adrian going to follow Love through to jump his way up to 14th and send Wubker back down to P15. And back to that point, talking about the braking zone, never mind, as Adrian now going to get a move done on Andrew Love. Whenever I try and wrap up all these points, these drivers just throw a curveball my way, so I have to talk about the racing action. But no, trying to brake from high speed into a clunky chicane while turning and aiming for an apex that you can't really see, that's basically like deciding to make yourself a smoothie with brick, meat bones, and a little bit of aluminum foil.
Okay. I'm not even sure how to respond to that. Except say, hey, we've got a pretty good battle up here of the top 4. They're still only separated by about 1 second between the 4 cars. They've kind of given themselves a gap back to Antonio Reese in P5, and Antonio, I think, has kind of worked his way through a couple of spins from other drivers. I think that's made that natural gap in between. So we'll have to keep an eye on see if Antonio can maybe make that gap up. If these guys start fighting amongst themselves, the gap will reduce very, very quickly, and we'll have us a bigger battle. But as of now, these 4 cars and then everybody else.
Yeah, it's this 4-pack, this small little tight-knit group at the front of the field, and then it's 6.5 seconds back to Antonio Reese, who is still your Masters leader. Dan Witzak, he's actually had a pretty good race right now, has a Spec 2 leader. He's currently running in P7, but he's got a fight on his hands with himself and Josh Wilkie. This will be a battle down into the club chicane. Wilkie looking to get something to work around the outside, off into the turn, well convincing on the brakes, kisses the curbs beautifully all through there, and gets that move done to jump his way up into P7. So well done from Mr. Wilkie. We'll take a look at some more drivers head their way off through the chicane. We talked about some of the track limits in the sim, and I think if there's any section where you can easily pick up a slowdown, it is heading off through there. And I think a slowdown here at Thruxton, that is just an absolute nightmare scenario. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a slowdown here, and whoever you've been working with and racing against, they get like that. They get like a 1 second advantage. As you have to slow down, you kind of lose the draft, and anybody that's behind you is going to be able to pick up the position. So, you definitely don't want to slow down. I think there's probably a couple other spots here, but I think as you said, that last chicane is probably the one where you can cut a little bit too much, and they're gonna ding you for it.
Yeah, and I think of all the sections to get a slowdown, if there is one, it would probably be best heading off through the... Actually, no, I'm going to amend that statement. It wouldn't be the best. It would be the least terrible. Getting a slowdown out of here, turn number 8 of Church, that would be a kick in the shins if ever you see it, as Phil Fernandez and Andrew Love and Stevie Wright are all involved in this tight-knit battle, as that's Phil Fernandez trying to get that move done on Stevie down into the chicane. Looks like he gets that done with authority around the outside. That Phil Fernandez car, always one that I like to see on my screen. Maybe I'm just a little bit off, but that color scheme of that race car is always very appealing to see out there on the racetrack. But he's now got Stevie on the outside of him, heading through into turn number 1. That's a oh, they didn't crash there. I'm not even sure if they know how they got away with that, as Andrew Love got followed suit.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. That was a very, very, Fernandez was on the inside line, so had a very narrow entry into that corner, and you could just see him say, I'm not going to make it that way, and just kind of opened it up a little bit. And luckily, Stevie had just cleared him, or that would have been pretty catastrophic, because there were 2 cars right behind him at full chat as well. So it might have been a multi-car incident.
As we take a look at Jeff Wubker and his perspective, trying to pick his way through the smoke, and it was contact being made, clips the inside curb through turn number 3 of Cobb, and runs straight into the side of Fernandez in that 7-up mobile. I wonder if it's at all possible, Guido, if we could maybe cut to a replay of Phil Fernandez and his terrible run coming out of the clutch chicane, because I think that he may have tried to come into the pits, but then missed it bad. We'll do that after we have this side-by-side fight with Andrew Love and Stevie Wright, which results in Andrew Love jumping his way up into 12th. And here it is from Fernandez's perspective. This was a little bit earlier onto that. Yeah, you can see a big curb whack there, so he has lost out on quite some time. Big curb whack. That was heading through turn number 6, and that's what brought Stevie and Andrew into this fight as well. And as I would like to hold on to this replay as long as we can, and then heading down into the club chicane, I wonder if we could maybe ride on board with him, see if he wanted to try and come into the pits, because it looked like he took a very shallow exit coming out at 12. You can see he gets this move done into the braking zone to remain in that spot. Gets a little bit wiggly, even heading down a straight. These cars, even in dry and perfect conditions like we've got here at Thruxton, not a very good time to have, that is for certain. I wonder potentially, is that slow down?
I think he just lost the rear coming off the chicane curbs, and then you just saw, whoa, that was so close. I just kind of think he was losing the rear and had to kind of lift a little bit and kind of catch the car, and it kind of just naturally took him to the inside of the track and slowed him down. But yeah, it just, you can see, I'm wondering if you see the seam as we were riding on board in that chopper view. There's a bit of a seam there where they've done like a paved job on the outside line going down into the chicane. I wonder if that's maybe messing with the tires a little bit. That's causing all that kind of, movement from side to side.
And these race cars, it's a very specific breed of race cars that we've got out here, but they're the kind that would get screwed up a little bit by just a slight undulation and a quick change of surface. This track, it's not a Formula 1 racetrack that we've got here. You can see what looks like a weird modern art project in the back of the shot as they head their way out of turn number 6 of Goodwood. So this track is not one where you can see drivers running on a silky smooth surface that drains immediately and is perfect grip all the time. This track is about as patchy as my face when I was 14. It's a rough ride to try and master around this track. I personally enjoyed ever since I started running around here when it is added into iRacing back at the start of season 1. I've really enjoyed it here, but it takes a fine feel to get these moves done, especially in these cars like this, which, as I will continue to say for as long as I'm broadcasting Formula Fords here on the iRacing platform, they're fun, but they can kick you right on your butt lickety-split, as Antonio Reese actually come down pit lane from P5.
There we go. So first of our pitters, I think even Stevie hasn't pitted yet, which is odd. So yeah, and Antonio's in. So he's going to relinquish P5. He's going to come in and get his stop done and get back out on the track. Should come out with some cars in front. Maybe that's going to help him out. He should be able to draft off a few of those cars and Stevie's in as well. So yep. So the pit cycle is officially open, and so wonder if that's going to mean that Antonio is going to be able to run some fast laps, do some drafting behind some cars, maybe make up a little bit of time.
Yeah, get some drafting time and be able to settle down a little bit in this race. It has been an intense one for these drivers up and down the grid. We'll note, though, at the I'm going to hold off on that point, as we nearly just saw Jay Ray and Jim Brewster battle hard down into turn number 6 of Goodwood. From my own experience running around this racetrack, that can work well, or it can result in you flipping about 15 times through the grass after making wheel-to-wheel contact, hitting the curb, and having the iRacing code not come up your way. So it's definitely a double-edged sword if you try and go for a moose. I think that's part of the reason why Jay Ray decided to back out of it and wait into the club chicane to try and get this move done, to jump his way up into 8th, down the inside, hammering through the gears. He's gonna go, and that's Jay Ray up to 8th.
Yeah, good pass by Jay. Just stayed in it on that long drawn-out run down into the chicane. Got a little bit of drafting help from Brewster, was able to make the pass.
Pretty simple move there, but he got it done with authority, and we're going to take a look at some more drama that's been going on in this race. I think it may have been involving Daniel Tufts, as you can see it was himself and Edward Buchanan battling tooth and nail all through the club chicane, as Tufts was all sorts of squirrely. Buchanan gets that move done down the start-finish stretch into turn number 1, flips that curb a little bit, was expecting him to run wide, but in all that drama, they have lost touch of Tompkins and Joyner. It has grown out from a 4-car pack into a 2-2. That's Joyner trying to do his best lawnmower cosplay, coming out of turn number 8 and losing some more time to Tompkins, as Buchanan and Tufts yet again battle hard for the final podium spot. Tufts gonna jump in front.
Yeah, you can just kind of see based on the leaders what they're doing is they're obviously they're on the edge of the track pretty much the entire while, but they're just making it as and they're keeping the steering as open and straight as they can. So they're trying to straight line every one of those long corners, those sweepers. They're just trying to straight line it and just carry that momentum, and that's what's keeping those guys up at the front. But you can see it's a little bit of a dangerous proposition because you kind of flirting with that grass on the outside, and you see just grass kicking up as they're coming down the track.
As Dan Witzak has made the call to come into the pits right now, that will give the Spec 2 lead for Philip Fernandez in the 317. Now, Spec 2, it has been a class that has very much so been Dan Witzak's all throughout this season. He's been quick, has grabbed a boatload of victories. I think I said as we were touching on the championship point situation in that class coming into this race, that he was going to walk away from the season with at least 6 wins, because he already has that as won over half the races up to this point here in this season, and has basically locked it up in that championship. But he's been insane, and that Spec 2 category, that's the sort of class where you can get a lot of wins, but if you aren't consistent, it's not going to matter at the end of the day. For Dan Witzak, he's grabbed 6 wins, which is already good enough. Nobody else has grabbed multiple wins up to this point. Fernando Afonso, Jason Shen, Paul Jackson, and Adam Thompson, our old SMB pal, they all have 1 win apiece up to this point in this season. So Dan Witzak proving that as much as consistency is good in Spec 2, you can also just go out and open a can of whoop ass, as some people would say.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And we're on board here with Ian Joyner. He's just staying in the draft there of Tompkins up in the lead. As you see, that gap is at 2.5 back to Buchanan in third. Buchanan and Tufts are kind of swapping that position back and forth as they get on these long straightaways. And it's not really done much for them. I think they're still around that 2.5 second mark, have been for a couple of laps now. So not really losing, but not really gaining either.
Yeah, that gap has roundabout stagnated, but hey, we still got a lot of time left to go in this race. About 30 seconds, 25 seconds away from the halfway mark in this race. At the front of the field, Tompkins and Joyner, they're still within striking distance of each other, but I gotta wonder, will we see these drivers be uniformed in one thing, and that is their decision to come down pit lane? I'll say, though, Ian Joyner, this is probably the most I've seen that driver, the number 8 car, push his race car. He's he's usually the calm, cool, and collected customer of them all, but he's pushing it as here's Kevin Adrian and Jim Brewster maybe going to battle for 8th overall in this race. Brewster, your current Masters leader, and Kevin Adrian trying to get something to work down the inside into the chicane, and he gets it done with authority. That's Adrian making up another spot to break into the top 8. Brewster going to drop down to 9th. But I wonder if we will see Adam Tompkins and Ian Joyner come into the pits together, or whether or not they will split their strategies. I think Ian Joyner has got that winning mindset heading into this race. I just said it a few moments ago, and Charles, I think you could probably back me up on this. We don't really see Ian Joyner just really push that car. He's usually the one that's just going to keep it calm, keep it cool. You don't usually see him slide that car out, test the limits. I've seen him in the grass more often than not. So Ian Joyner, he's definitely a man on the mission to win here at Thruxton.
Yeah, he definitely is. And, it goes back to the fact that he's really not in contention for the championship because he's not raced the entire season. So he's just going out here trying to get wins. And so, yeah, he's really pushed it. And that's simply because he's got a car that's on his pace. So he's got Tompkins up front. So now it's like, okay, if I want to win this, I'm going to have to do a little more than maybe I would have to do against some of the other drivers. So he's really trying to push the limits of the car. And I'm sure he's probably enjoying himself too, just as just just from the fact that he is actually getting some competition out there on the track. So he's obviously having fun, but yeah, definitely pushing. I completely agree with what you were saying.
And one thing to raise as well when it comes to these Weekend Warriors events, these drivers do have an incident point limit. 13x is when you pick up a penalty. 18x is when you get a disqualification. Don't think we're going to see anyone push the boundaries that badly, but this is a track that can be a little bit of a magnet when it comes to picking up those off tracks as you push the limits around this narrow, old school, and very fast track. As Andrew Love has made the call to come into the pits in the 122 car, going to drop just barely inside the top 15 now, as next car behind him will be Stevie Ray. So I think he's actually shaken out rather all right when it comes to that battle. We're not really seeing these drivers be fully uniformed in their strategy calls here in this race, Charles. Usually when it comes to the Weekend Warriors, we'll see these drivers say, you know what, I'm going to run to this point and then I'm going to come in. So there's like a 5-minute window where you see a vast majority of the drivers come into the pits. Not really seeing that here today. We're just seeing one driver come in, then another, then another, then another. It's just slowly but surely seeing that pit cycle continue all throughout this race. I think part of the reason why that is the case, considering this track is a bit on the newer end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it takes time to build up that track knowledge to know when's the best time to come in and pit. Obviously, the official sessions aren't long enough that a pit's necessary, as we see Jim Brewster going around. Nice catch by Jim. Gets the car headed back in the right direction. And then you see the change in friction as he gets back on the track and just loops the car around. Seen that a bunch of times, but it was all to he was out on that AstroTurf, on the outside there, and just could not hang on to it.
Just wasn't able to keep that car underneath, and these cars are super tough. If you get into that slide, there are two ways it can end. You either feel like a hero and a badass if you keep that car going in a straight line, or you're going to spin and probably spin it again trying to get that car back up and rolling. I have been on both sides of that coin, so believe me when I say that. I think Edward Buchanan, something's happened to Edward Buchanan. I was just going to say, as he made that call to come into the pits, I think he may have possibly blinked in and out of existence there, heading down into the club chicane. It's the inside curve, looks fine through that. Oh, ooh. What in the world? That had to have been a hardware failure. Yeah, that throttle is pinned, his wheel is turned, and that's Edward Buchanan having a hardware failure to take him out of this race.
Yep, seen that a few times. It had to happen once or twice myself, and that's exactly what you see as you get full throttle, dead turn to the right, and but it's really not doing anything. So tough break for Ed. He was having himself a good run. But that's obviously going to cause him to either take a moment off the track and get it reset, but he's going to lose a bunch of time, or he's going to just end up giving up on the race and getting ready for the spec racer if he's decided to do that.
Yeah, that, or he's just going to call up whoever provides his sim racing equipment and probably tell them the time of day, so to speak. But Edward Buchanan going to be the first retirement from this race. Has been a clean one here at Thruxton up to this point. Haven't seen too many drivers come to blows. I've seen a couple of scrapes every now and then, mainly heading down into the club chicane right towards the early stages. But outside Buchanan, the only two drivers that are at this race are Simon Ball and Peter Maddox, both of which who did not make the start of this race. So it has been clean, has been rather smooth, and it's still a fight at the front as Andrew Hertz has come into the pits from 4th place in this race. I'm a poet and I don't know it. Let's see how that strategy is going to work after the 42.
Yeah, I mean it's we're at the halfway point, so you do get a few cars that just split the difference as it were. Is come in, run half the race, come in, take your pit stop, come out, finish the other half of the race, and they'll set their fuel accordingly. But Andrew's in. I believe Jay Ray is also in. Kevin Adria is also in. So pit stops are starting to happen pretty fast, pretty furious.
Yeah, I think these drivers are trying to play me like a fiddle when I said that it was going to be a consistent stream of drivers coming down pit lane all the way through to the end. We're going to have like a 5-lap lull where nobody comes in. Then everybody will decide, you know what? Now's my time to pit. The tolls are closed, so I don't have to pay the fee to come into pit lane. Let's just do it. So as we see these racers bounce their way off through the chicanes, hitting those curbs. Every single time I look at that, I get a slight tinge of, whoa, wow, Zers. That was Jay Ray with a huge snap coming out of turn number 3. He kept it going in a straight line, and that was Dan Witzak getting a fantastic view of that right there. My, oh my. That was a snap of a lifetime. It was a save of a lifetime as the 13 was running right in front of the 413. It was him nearly striking himself out of this race.
Yeah, Dan's saying thank you for catching that car, Jay, because I didn't have anywhere to go. That would have been that probably would have been a T-bone job there from Witzak, because obviously could not, or is not. I don't think there was going to be much of a way for him to avoid that as close as they were together. So good catch by Jay, and they can both continue on racing. Albeit I think both of them may have their nerves on the edge for the next lap or two. But so far they're going to continue on as we have more people coming into the pits. We've got Juan Garcia, Jim Brewster, and Josh Wilkie on his way out already. He's done. So he'll come back out running in P6, and he'll have, P7, P8, as he's dropping down the order as he's getting back up to speed. So he'll have to, a couple of cars in front he can track down.
Adam Tompkins has made that call to come into the pits from the race lead in the number 17 car, just as I suspected, going to have split strategies for our two front runners. Daniel Tufts going to follow him in as well, that driver, the number 34 car. Looking to have a good end to this season. He's on track to finish second in the championship, and as long as he doesn't have a late season collapse, it's looking good for him to be able to do that. For Ian Joyner, though, he wants this race win. We talked about the aggression that we've seen from Joyner up to this point, pushing that car to the ragged edge of control, still holding on to the race lead. Tompkins has exited at about 27 seconds back of Joyner, with Daniel Tufts about 5 seconds back of him. Should be known that Adam Tompkins' run through the pits in its entirety was 32.1 seconds, with his time down pit lane, down his pit stall being 18.23. A little bit slower, it must be said, than Daniel Tufts. So I think that will play into the hand of Ian Joyner when he decides to make that call to come into the pits. We are into crunch time in this race, 11.5 minutes left to go on the clock, so Joyner will have to eyeball that run through the pits. It's only he and Jeff Wubker who've yet to come down pit lane, and now it's just him as Wubker. Right as I said, that makes that call to pit in the 909. Yeah,
and let's see if Joyner's going to come in this time by. And yes, he is indeed. There we go. All right, so there's a leader into the pits, and we'll see what the gap's going to be between Joyner and Tompkins. And Tompkins coming around down that straightaway into the non-functional DRS zone here as we're coming down that long straight into the chicane. We'll see what the gap's going to be. We'll give a time when Joyner gets done with his pit stop.
See, back in my karting days. Yeah, there we go. Very, very good stop there from Ian Joyner. I think he'll be able to exit out with a comfortable lead in front of Adam Tompkins. As much as he was pushing it, he knew at the end of the day, as Joyner has done so many times in the past here in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors Series, he gets that strategy called nailed down week in and week out, and he'll now have a comfortable gap with about 10 minutes left to go on the clock in this race. as I gotta say, looking at the difference between those racers, it is insane. Ian Joyner, 15.2 seconds stopped in his pit stall compared to Tompkins at 18.23. And when it comes to the time down pit lane, Joyner spent 27.92 seconds compared to Tompkins at 32.1. Tompkins, I'm looking through. He has the slowest pit time of the drivers inside the top three. There have been drivers who have spent longer in the pits. I'm going to look through Sander Verbruge. Actually, no, it's not Sander Verbruge. Philip Fernandez in the 317. You're at 1.2 leader. Spent 38 seconds down pit lane and 23 seconds stopped in his pit stall. So, as much as Sander is Dutch, I wonder if all the Max Verstappen fans have ordered the Red Bull because he needs some for his mechanics.
Maybe that's exactly what it was. As we're seeing this battle here with Witzak currently leading in Spec 2. He's got Jay Ray, Josh Wilkie, Kevin Adrian in tow. Those cars are all battling for position within Spec 1, and Witzak's still just setting the tone here. We'll see if any of these guys will be able to get a run and maybe get by and try and chase down Andrew Hurds, who's up there in P5, maybe get into the top 5 for this race.
I would not be able to rule that out at all. These drivers still have a decent amount of time left in their back pocket to make up some moves and start to get a bit dicey. Dan Witzak and Jay Ray, and then it's not a lot, it must be said, between Ray and Wilkie. So we may end up seeing this battle that's 2-2 turn into a 4-car battle at the end of this race. I would not rule it out at all with 8.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Charles, considering that you had to purchase this track right before we got into the sim for this race,
Yep.
I want to ask you what your thoughts are on what I would assume would be the first race that you've gotten the opportunity to commentate here at Thruxton.
Yeah, well, it's not only the first race I've got to commentate, it's the first race I've had to watch. So, yeah, I mean, once again, it is definitely a track that's going to be one of those where single make is going to be a blast here. So FFs are going to fit in right, fit in well with that. Fast track, a couple of small little chicanes to deal with, but otherwise it's going to be one of those where just kind of hang in with the car, do some draft racing, do some late passing into some of a couple of braking zones. So yeah, it looks like a fun little track, and it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, I did not get a chance to watch any of the 4 hours yesterday where they had the TCRs, but I bet those TCRs were probably a handful at a track like this with so much direction changes during the course of the race.
Oh, that was Wilkie and Kevin Adrian. Man, that's okay. That's got to be a slowdown for Josh because he took so many liberties heading off through that section of the racetrack. So yeah, Josh does have a slowdown. Going to have to serve this as quickly and as efficiently as he possibly can. There's only so much you can do around this track as, oh, look at that defensive move down into turn number 2. I think he cleared the slowdown, but he's still got to lose out on that spot, but he's still trying to wheel it. Holy cow. I have a terrible feeling about this. They made it through that section clean. How did they do that? I don't even think they know.
I'm not sure, but that was quite the side-by-side battle there between those two cars. Yeah, Josh did a pretty good job of basically just, lifting a little bit, trying to work that slowdown off slowly as not to lose that position, and kind of did some defensive moves and some fighting as well, but managed to get the slowdown cleared and managed to hang on to the position. But probably Kevin is not his biggest fan right now, I'm just going to guess.
If I get the opportunity to commentate a race with Josh, I'm going to have him interview Kevin Adrian. You can see swapperoo going on between those two racers down at the club. I can. Whoa, that's another sideways snap from the 10. And look at that. Wilkie trying to make something work, but he's going to pick himself up a slowdown yet again. That line will not play you any favors with the iRacing gods. In fact, did he pick up a slowdown for all that? I'm going to look through. Yes, he did. So Wilkie going to have another slowdown. It was opportunistic for sure, but at the same time, there is only so many opportunities you can take before someone slaps you on the wrist, as we're getting deja vu to what happened through this section of the track 1 lap ago. You can tell that racing was close based off the fact that I started yodeling, but now Wilkie will have to worry about serving this slowdown out of turn number 4 as we take a look at the fight maybe going to flare up. This battle has been going on throughout a decent chunk of this race. It's Stevie and Andrew Love. They're running nose to tail in P10 and P11. Basically nothing between between those two racers as they head their way out of turn at number 4. But they head their way off into Noble of 5 right about now. This corner is one that always feels like one that you cannot nail down. As I'm going to look through, did Josh serve that slowdown and just kept Adrian at bay? It looks like he doesn't have the flag next to him anymore, and he didn't pick up a black flag. So I think Josh Wilkie was able to serve that slowdown. That or he used some of the money here at Slow Motion Broadcasting to just slip a 20 or a 50 or a $100 bill into Race Control's pockets, so he won't have to worry about that slowdown as he heads his way off through there yet again. Jay Ray making the call to pits, though. So what's happened to the 13?
Ooh. Well, I'm not sure. That is his second pit stop, so I'm not sure what's going on. Don't really see, doesn't look like he's in trouble for as far as his incident limits are concerned. So maybe he picked up some damage during the course of this and just couldn't get that resolved. But he's back into the pits and he's back out with 16 seconds, and these guys are still fighting. It's still tooth and nail between Wilkie and Adrian.
I guarantee that clip of their battle a couple of laps ago is going to end up in a YouTube short. I say that as if I'm not the one that makes a decent amount of them here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And hey, after this broadcast is said and done, happy to take a look at some of those YouTube shorts and keep you tidied over for that Spec Racing Ford race coming up later on this afternoon. So with that
Absolutely.
very subtle and practically unnoticeable plug out of the way, let's take a look at this fight involving Stevie Ray and Andrew Love. You can see Love maybe trying to dance and get a move done down into turn number 5 and 6. Not able to work it, though. These drivers are, I mean, there's some of Ray Esports royalty, obviously Stevie, the series admin, and then Andrew Love. He's been around the block before when it comes to the Weekend Warriors and the Ray Esports series. As holy cow, very good mention from our producer Guido and all that smoke and drama that's been going on a little bit farther in the mid-pack. Adam Tompkins has kicked on the Hyperjets, and he's now only a half a second away from Ian Joyner. This would be a battle for the race lead, and it looks like it's going to heat up here soon as it's now under a half as they head their way out of 8.
Yeah, 3 minutes left to go in the race, and probably 2 laps as we've got smoke there. Oh,
whoa!
That is the Paul Jackson. Trying to see who that other car is. That the 32 of Juan Garcia. So let's see if we can get a replay of what happened here. We've got Paul Jackson like he's working his way down into the chicane, and entry okay. Midpoint okay. Ooh, exit not okay. Off the track on the outside, spins it right in front of Andrew and Stevie Ray, and then oh no, here we go. Oh,
whoa, yeah,
great avoidance by Garcia, but yeah, just obviously you can't really see. You got to depend on your relative there to know if there's cars coming. So you don't rejoin unsafely, and that was a bit too much unsafe as we got the still going on between Adrian and Wilkie.
Yeah, I think these drivers, with how hard they've been racing, I think something's going to boil over here soon as there's the move from Adrian down into the chicane. Wilkie, I think, learning his lesson with the track limits as he nearly touched the back of the gearbox of Kevin Adrian's car, heading his way out of that chicane. They are still nose to tail. This is battle for 7th and 8th. At the front of the field, though, Ian Joyner and Adam Tompkins, they're running within about 0.2 of a second of each other. They're going to be coming right to the end of this race here as well, Charles. So I believe the white flag will be in the air. One more lap of racing action, and look at that. Adam Tompkins broke Ian Joyner's ankles down into turn number 9 of Brooklands, down that flat out blitz. Joyner holds on to the race lead, but he's got a very tough road ahead of him with one more lap of racing action left here at Thruxton. Tompkins got to look to try and get a move done around the outside. They've got the wounded car, the 249 of Paul Jackson, right in front. That may act as a bit of a pick. It's going to be the worst case scenario for Joyner, a dream case scenario for Tompkins. He gets out of the way, tries to dive out of their way down into turn number 2. Credit where credit's due to Paul Jackson playing the sportsman to let us have this battle, but Joyner going to lead Tompkins out of turn number 4. This flat out blast down into 6. It's going to see what sort of speed Tompkins has. He's going to try and look for it around the outside through Noble of 5. Will he get it done? It's still close quarter stuff. He's got about a lane and a half on that inside line. Down into 6. They head their way through that section. None of a curve back for each other. They're nearly banging wheels and banging bodywork heading down into turn number 8 at the very end of this race. Tompkins holding on to the inside line, gonna get that move done, but Joyner gonna try and get his bearings straight, collect himself, and maybe go for a last-second dive down into Club. They're clipping the grass. The 17's trying to cover off that inside line, but here comes Joyner in the 8. They're oh so close to making contact moment after moment, second after second, side by side into the chicane, and Joyner gonna try and hold his own, but he won't be close enough, but he's got to run coming out of the final turn. It's gonna be a photo finish at the end of this race, but
Whoa.
Tompkins gonna win it.
Wow, what a great end of this race. And we've still got Adrian and Wilkie still battling. Adrian in front. Oh, and we're going to switch over to Batonio here, who's going to take the Masters class win in P4. Tufts with the P3, so great job by Daniel to hang in there. And Antonio is going to get that class victory. And now we're back to the battle between Adrian and Wilkie. It was coming down that long straightaway.
Here we go down into Club. Wilkie. Oh, no! Bang! Wilkie gonna hit the wall. He tried to go for it down into the Club chicane. He just couldn't hold on to it at the end. Carried about 25 miles an hour. Too much speed down into it. Josh gonna give us some style points to talk about at the end of this race. Can't say he didn't try at the end of it, but my oh my, what a race here at Thruxton. Adam Tompkins, though, that was the drive of a lifetime for the driver of the number 17 car. After losing about 4 or 5 seconds through the pit cycle, he was able to reel in Joyner, got a move done with authority, heading off through the final lap of this race, and Tompkins going to win in one of the closest margins that we've had in the history of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. 71 thousandths of a second after over 40 minutes of racing action. Incredible stuff here for round number 11. Should be noted, with their wins in their class, Antonio Reese and Dan Witzak have essentially locked up the championships in their respective championship battles. But with all that taken care of, I'm going to try and catch my breath. We're going to hear once again from the fantastic partner that we have here from the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors in the form of Almeida Racing Academy. We'll be right back with some results and some interviews, and having me still trying to catch my breath after that amazing finish here at Thruxton.
6 years ago, this was my simulator. Now, I'm a Radical US champion and IMSA driver. My technique in the simulator is what brought me here. Now, I created the Almeida Racing Academy, a place where members can participate in weekly broadcasted championship races, practice sessions, coaching workshops, and much more. We already have 11,000 students in the academy, and we're growing faster than ever. Our membership gives you everything you need every week to improve consistently and become a competitive driver. So join now as a member, and I will see you on track.
What a race we just had here today at Thruxton for round number 11 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. A duel right at the end between Adam Tompkins and Ian Joyner will result in Tompkins getting the win. We're going to get those results loaded up, and you can see how close the margin was at the very end of this race. 0.073 seconds was the gap between Tompkins and Joyner after over 40 minutes. Joyner, he thought he had it in the bag. He's a very good racer, but Tompkins just had the edge on him at the end of this race. Those two finished P1 and P2, with Daniel Tufts rounding out your podium in P3. It's going to be Antonio Reese winning yet again in the Masters category. He's already gotten the championship locked up, and with that race win, it'll now be 7 wins thus far this season from Reese. Incredible stuff from him in the 914. Andrew Herds will round out your top 5 in front of Dan Witzak, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race, a 7th win for him in his respective class. Kevin Adrian will finish in 7th in front of Josh Wilkie in P8, who gave it the dive down into the chicane but just wasn't close enough. Gonna be Andrew Love finishing in 9th, and Juan Garcia rounding out our top 10.
Yep, Jay Ray finishes in P11. Jim Brewster finishes in P12, second in Masters. Philip Fernandez finishes 13th, second in Spec 2. Stevie Ray rounds out your Masters podium in 14th. Jeff Wubker finishes in 15th. Sandra Verbruch finishes in 16th and rounds out your Spec 2 podium. Paul Jackson finishes in 17th. Ed Buchanan, with the early drama with the hardware failure, finishes in 18th. Peter Maddox in 19th, and who did not take the start, as well as Simon Ball, who also did not take the start of the race and will be classified in 20th.
And so those are your, oh boy, let me try that one again. So those are your results at the end of this 11th round of the season here at Thruxton. Adam Tompkins is your winner, and I'm going to drag him into the commentary booth because I want to hear his perspective in terms of that battle, because my oh my, was that absolutely fantastic. Adam Tompkins, your race winner, now joining us here in the booth. And now, Adam, that was a monumental fight between yourself and Ian Joyner. Didn't look like it was going to go that way after that pit cycle, but you were able to keep your nose to the grindstone and get back up to him and take the win at the end of this race. So happy to talk us through that race that we just saw here at Thruxton today.
Wasn't it towards the last few laps the patience paid off? I mean, overfueled, which provoked the gap between me and Ian on the stint after the pit stop, but no, it was a really good clean battle as always with Ian. I can trust him a lot. Yeah, I was just catching. I was nailing the chicane every time, and that's what got me the time to catch up. And yeah, I just found a bit of a gap on the outside of turn 5, I think it is, on the outside. I was just speaking to Ian about it actually. It's kind of pot luck. Outside or inside line can both work there, but yeah, I got lucky in the end there.
And you two were putting on such a fantastic battle around this racetrack. I want to ask you what it's like battling tooth and nail in these very sketchy race cars around a track like this, where the speeds are so high and one small touch of the wheels could just result in an absolutely hellacious collision. How is it trying to battle tooth and nail around here?
Daunting, basically. That's the fun of it. The cars squirrel around in a straight line, so particularly into the final chicane, that's really difficult to handle, especially side by side. But it really rewards people who are aggressive but clean at the same time. You've got to find the fine line between them both. But yeah, I always come back to this car all the time because it's probably the best car in service, in my opinion. Promotes fantastic racing and clean racing as well.
Yeah, and you two just put on an absolutely amazing battle. Nice to see you out here on the racetrack here at Thruxton, and hoping to see you out here on the racetrack for the final round of this season here in the FF Weekend Warriors, going to be running at Donington Park in 1 week. So will we see you out there on track for that one? And if so, what are your thoughts heading into it?
I hope so, yeah. I've never raced in the rain, so I hope it stays dry, which is obviously a lottery when it comes to British tracks. But yeah, I'm hoping to do it. I need a bit more experience in the rain. I'm definitely lacking pace there. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the last round. One of the best circuits for this car. It's a shame it's not the national layout, but the GP layout's not too bad either. But yeah, really looking forward to it, and I hope Ian turns up as well.
I'm not sure if my vocal cords will be able to take a battle between you two yet again, but I think the viewers won't mind that one bit. So I look forward to seeing you two maybe battle in 1 week's time at Donington. But Adam, thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth. And before we let you go and celebrate this win, is there anybody you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, as always, Altitude for Esports, who sponsor me. One of the best teams around, if not the best team around. So yeah, they're a fantastic bunch, and yeah, looking forward to doing multiple championships in the next few months.
You know, I was going to say this before we went off the air, but Adam, I'm pretty sure I've commentated you and your racing adventures on 3 separate broadcast companies. I remember your name from the other World GT Championship over on RaceSpot. So nice to see you here for the Formula Fords, and hope to see you out on track for Donington Park in 1 week's time.
Well, I'm a bit lacking on pace in GT3. I'm still learning GT3 a lot, but hopefully the new GT3 tire model will benefit me in the long term.
Oh man, if you could compare my driving skills when I run in a GT3, you'd probably be quicker than me with a bag over your head. So I'll just leave it at that. Adam, well done on the win. Excited to see you at Donington in 1 week.
Cheers, Ron. Take care.
And right there was Adam Tompkins, your race winner at the end of this race here at Thruxton. And Charles, I'm going to pass off a very difficult question. Do you want to have a chat with our Masters winner of Antonio Reese, our P2 finisher of Ian Joyner?
Well, let's go ahead and talk with Ian, and we'll get his perspective on the battle there at the end, and then we'll bring Antonio in here in just a bit. So Adam, Ian, congratulations, P2. Another really good battle between you and another driver over the last 10 minutes of that race.
Yeah, it was. It's sort of a shame it was only one or two laps, but yeah, it was a great finish. Yeah, I'd never really tried fuel saving before, so thought it seemed like I knew how fast Adam was, and I don't think we'd have survived if we fought for the whole 40 minutes. But so he seemed happy to sit in front, so I thought I'd give it a go. That actually worked out pretty well. I got my little gap, but still not very good at it. I wasn't sure whether I was going to finish when I came out of the pit, so I was a little hesitant. I think we were tight, maybe to 31 laps as well. Need to go and check the numbers on that. So just made a couple of little mistakes, and then that made it into a fight, which did make it a lot more fun, to be fair. And he just got the better of me on the last lap. So yeah, but it was it was good.
Well, for us who are new to Thruxton, my guess is you probably got experience here in the real world as well as here in iRacing. So to me, the cars look like, they just seem like, they're a little more unstable here than in other places where the cars were just kind of dancing around, even going down the straightaways. Is that just the nature of this track?
I think so, yeah. Or certainly with that track and these cars. I've never actually been there. It's a little way from me, as big as the UK is. And I've only driven it once before, when last time we were here there with the FFs. So I did feel like I knew it, but it took a little bit of time. Been driving other things this week with Almeida, and so it did take a little bit of time to get used to it. And again, with the car changing at the start of this season, I think it was probably a bit easier now. Last time round, the rear, you could really sort of cook the rear tyres, and just all these fast corners, this car tends to just have the rear end dancing around, which is fine. I think it's now a bit harder to spin anyway because they move the weight, and also the tyres, they just don't cook quite as much as they used to. So you can kind of, it sort of looks spectacular, but unless you get into real trouble, you're unlikely to spin it. But you do all those fast corners. You're just dancing the rear, and it's not just the rear's got no grip; the front's got no grip either. So you're kind of going so fast, and you sort of almost expect to have a little bit of downforce or something, but you just don't in these. So especially when they're cold, some of the fast corners, you just can't get the front end, and then the rear end starts to go as well. So yeah, you're just dancing around, but they are fun to drive. It's a fun circuit in that car. Last chicane's not great. It feels clumsy as anything, smashing over it, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah, that was kind of the what we were talking about at the start of the broadcast, was that final chicane, and then pit entry is probably not the best designed pit entry in the world. It's a bit of a challenge to get the car turned in there, especially if you're maybe in traffic.
Definitely, yeah. I think I was a little bit all over going into it, but it was okay. But yeah, because your car's very unstable as it goes over there. I've no idea why the track limits aren't just on the black bits. I don't know why they let you drive all over the concrete race bits. But hey, like I said, it is what it is.
So there you go. So next week at Donington Park to round out the season, are you gonna be visiting with us next week?
I hope so. Yeah.
All right.
Again, the Almeida guys are racing Legends at Snetterton on Saturday, so I'm going to do that first, but hopefully get a bit of time in Donington as well. And
all right. Well, Ian, congratulations again, and we'll let you give any thanks for shout outs, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks Adam for a great race, and as ever, thanks to you guys for the excellent coverage.
All right, Ian, congratulations. Thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, bye now.
And that right there was Ian Jr., your P2 finisher at the end of this race. He gave it his all, and still a very quick driver. And I very much so look forward to a repeat of the battle potentially between himself and Adam Tompkins next week. But one driver who's going to be very happy after grabbing his seventh win in the Masters category thus far this season. Antonio, welcome into the commentary booth, and well done on the victory.
Thank you guys for having me.
How
I hope all of you are okay, and then it's everything was very unexpected. I was thinking very bad for this race. I have the bad feeling that and then my wheel was disconnecting from nothing suddenly, and so I was crossing fingers that the wheel could keep connected to the end of the race.
Yeah, that has to be rather terrifying around this track, because with the turns around here, man, it's got to be slightly terrifying, doesn't it?
Yeah, my qualify was screw up because of that. So I was having a very good lap on the draft of Tufts, I think, and then suddenly the wheel disconnected and the car just went to the wall, and then I have to restart the wheel again, and then I lowered the force feedback to not hit the base. So crossing my fingers to finish the race. Then it worked. Steve Ray said to me, "Ah, Antonio, don't worry, it will work." And it's okay.
I mean,
Yeah, it was a good race. Yeah, I finished 4. Was very surprising. I pit early because I have no draft, so usually my calculator program, it works very well when I have no draft, and it really make a nice. Then the race was 1 lap less than it should be, I think. And then when I saw the white flag, I said, "Oof, I'm safe," because I was worried about my fuel.
And now I'm hoping that those wheel issues get resolved for the next race of the season at Donington Park. Another old school UK track to bring the season to a close. So what are your thoughts heading there?
Oh, I love all of those England, British tracks. I love them all. So it will be fun. It will be good, at least for me. It will be good for being driving there. I don't know if I finish the race, or which position, but anyway, I'm just happy to be there. I like the track, the layout. I know the track, so kind of comfortable on that regard. But other than that, I don't know if it is going to be a good race or not, but it's always good, even if I crash.
And hey, if you have some drama in the early stages, you've still got a championship at the end of this all, and you can have some fun watching us in the broadcast booth for the next week's race. But Antonio, I will let you give any thanks or shouts out before you let you go on with your celebrations.
Yeah, for you guys on the broadcast, you're doing a fascinating job every time. I'm just going to watch, and then for the viewers, all the guys that watch your channel, the broadcast channel, and Steve Ray, first of all, and first than anything else, and also for the sponsor Almeida, and for that's all, and for the drivers. Yeah, you never forget. Without the drivers, we couldn't have fun.
If it weren't for the drivers, we wouldn't be able to have our fun here on the broadcast. So, Antonio, thank you for being out there on the racetrack. Thank you for joining us here in the commentary booth, and excited to see you on track at Donington.
Yeah, see you there, guys. Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, our Masters winner at the end of this race here at Thruxton. But Charles, one more race after this, Donington Park. That track posted a pretty good race last season here for the FFs, albeit it was rather affected by rain. Maybe dry next week, maybe wet. We'll just have to wait and see. Donington, though, always a tough ask.
Yeah, it really is. It's probably the most, for me, it's the most difficult track in England as far as those tracks go. So it's a bit rough, but it makes for some good racing. You have to be pretty precise there. You can carry your speed, but it's real easy to just get off in the grass and make a mistake. So your patience level and your precision level have to be on point for that race.
Yeah, it is going to be a precise drive that these drivers will have to try and do in 1 week's time when the series rocks out there. But hey, we got a whole lot of actions to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting just about every single week. Going to wrap up the season for the Sim Racers Group F4 Series. And of course, we've got the Weekend Warriors Championship Finale week in 1 week's time here on Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays being the FVs, Sundays being the FFs and the Spec Racer Fords. And that Spec Racer Ford race coming up later on this afternoon. That is going to be on the Silverstone National layout. I was talking with Josh yesterday after the end of the Formula V race, and he pretty much told me that that's going to be a NASCAR style race. And hey, if you want to see some NASCAR at the end of that as well, we got XSLR running at Daytona this evening, so hopefully all of you will be able to tune into that as well. But as for this broadcast here today for round number 11 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors at Thruxton, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you also very much for watching this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all for that Spec Racer Ford race coming up later on this afternoon.